I am Nera Luce, and we are here today for every person that want to listen in English. I have many people that ask me about something in English, something about both my book, and I try to satisfy all the public, and this is video reading in English about my book, Living the Dead, that will come out on February this year, on February, but all in Italian. If you know some publisher that want to translate it in English, well, write to me as soon as possible, yes. And this is a translation, in a material translation made by me, because here there is only me and Nera Luce, for life, married for life, and I can, what I do, I assure you that my commitment in what I do in this translation is the best as possible I can. And I have sent this file, this same translation that I will read now, soon, to some English people, American, not only American, but not only American people, but two British people, and all the people has understood very well my English. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's not possible at the moment, because I live in Italy, to make a translation, a perfect translation from Italian to English. Consider that my Italian style, writing style, is very complex also for the Italian. Well, this is the dedication I do at the start, in the start of the book. I dedicate this work to that, whose reflection has accompanied my entire life, earthly existence, in a dazzling, imposing, visceral way. In it and with it, I have grown in vibratory apexes of different splendor. I dismembered in several cycles, and then I reached the place where light and life sprouts. And then we start with the introduction I write to the book. Okay, there will be two introductions. One is mine, and one another is from Sensitive, in Italian, astral traveler. You can find he on YouTube and on Facebook. He wrote 3 books about near-death experience. There seems to be no greater mystery in every culture and in every historical manifestation of the profound reality represented by being faced with an event that embodies the radical and total denial of one's own identity. A rogue, pregnant, dizzying reflection. That is a constituent part of life until the moment we are born. Observing from afar how present society is structuring itself, it's evident how it has been, this society has been built in order to keep death as far away from everyday life as possible. by hiding that, we try to exercise its power of annihilation. That represents perhaps the first and last ontological certainty of a man, of Machin, the undeniable reality that constitutes life itself, so pervasive and at the same time elusive that it has aroused the abnormal and transversal interest of many disciplines in science, religion, metaphysics and philosophy. If by affirming that we somehow believe that we are then in life, by affirming life, we give birth to death in a certain sense, and it is precisely in this that the paradoxical ambiguity of its ontological status emerges. In its no-being, death cannot help but manifest itself by being there. Raymond Perniker says, man at the moment of death certainly become one. This simplifies his life, discard what is purely accidental and in particular, concentrate and condenses his entire being so that what he leaves behind or passes to other is the true center of his being, the nucleus of his person, the Atman, which does not vanish, so that is the supreme act. This paradoxality becomes even more evident and unmanageable when we are faced with the phenomena of near-death experience. Near-death experience is the theme of my book. In his anthology of Vedic text, Perniker expresses the idea that the desire to live not accompanied by an equal desire for death does not represent a real desire to life, but is rather to be considered as the product of an imagination that attempts at all costs to cling to an illusory life. The phenomenology of near-death experience and its consequences reflect in a certain sense the contents of this statement. Since in most cases survivors of death, after having lived NDE, attribute new revealed meanings to their lives, undertaking processes of revisiting their own scale of values and undergo profound and radical transformation of their spiritual attitude. Epicurean doctrine solves the problem of death in a rather simple way that, I hate this simple way. And Epicurus' solving statement brings its conceptual implication almost opposite to those present in Perniker's talk. Epistole to Menitrio, the mastery believed then death is nothing for us, because when we are there, there is no death. When there is death, we are no longer. It is nothing then, neither for the living nor for the dead, because for the living it is not there, and the dead are no more. However, it doesn't seem that the issues of death and near-death experience can be trivialized and so easily solved. And in a near-death experience, NDE included in the broader discussion of the nature of death and its medical, psychological, religious, and metaphysical implications, show a phenomenological constellation of a great complexity and of difficult investigation. As a philosopher, Cerruti reminds us there is an irreducible plurality of point of view, languages, models, themes, images that compete but also contradict each other. In the production of knowledge and in the study of complex phenomena, an epistemological provocation from which one portrays oneself almost suspended between discrete certainties and new possibilities. The column of knowledge that science has erected over the course of history have often been the subject of progressive falsifications that have been the basic premise for subsequent expansion of the body of knowledge of the various disciplines, the victory of a new scientific truth rarely has been achieved through the simple denial of its plausibility, and it is rather when what is opposed to this same plausibility no longer makes sense to exist, and therefore is a positional force decays, that we see the birth of a new generation of ideas. When asked what is real, Arturo Regini replies, around its conception that identifies the existing with the resistance that there are many things to be observed, among others, this one is weak. That it is not so simple to speak even of an objective existence limited to the present moment, because the present is but a limit, a fleeting and abstract point of separation between the past and the future, the material reality of an instantaneous universe is not a very persuasive thing. The result is that reality is a more complex world than all things objectively existing in time. Time and space are mysterious elements of reality and not vice versa. Arturo Regeni, going against the common sense of a reality conceived as tangible and spatial, proposes an idea of awakening the man, which goes beyond the intrinsic illusion that the human senses contribute to nourish, starting a path that leads him to perceive the world and the self through opposition in a transcendental or spiritual way. This consideration brings us to our mind, our Nera Luce is our theme of investigation. Yes. in all its complexity and implications. Are near the text these are some questions that I propose to the lector, to the public in my introduction. Are near the text experience some that we can consider real, and what were the different hypotheses put forward by the researchers to explain this phenomena? The recent technological advance and evolution of neuroscientific studies in questioning the probable origin of the near-death experience have subjected to research several hypotheses concerning the brain correlates involved. Very interesting results have emerged from medical and neuroscientific research, which in the last 30 years have witnessed an exponential growth of interest on the part of researchers providing theological interpretations for almost every typical aspect of NDE. But the diatribe between spiritualist and scientist remain open and difficult to resolve. The very nature of near-death experience, in fact, require us to make it the object of study and multidisciplinary interest. Medicine, psychology, philosophy, religion and metaphysics are the main areas in which the current reflection and research of and near-death experience is placed. It would in fact be limiting, as well as in a certain sense utopian, to determine a prioristically whether the NDA represent a purely physiological or only metaphysical phenomenon. Science can support and evolve its research impeccably, yes. But at some point, at a certain point, it will inevitably come up against that intrinsic limit, which qualifies the experience of death as a largely mysterious condition, whose metaphysical implication can never be fully resolved through verification and scrutiny alone. However, this is not only the dialectical attempt to circumvent potential and innovative attempt at scientific analysis, but rather a necessary awareness for any researcher who does not want to fall back into low-level dogmatism or reductionism of materialistic matrix. On the other hand, the fact that mass of the information circulating on NDE comes from anecdotal sources or episodes reported transversely by third parties feeds a vicious circle of attitudes and opinions that tend to devalue its clinical and scientific validity. The domination of the materialistic, mechanistic paradigm in science has contributed to diminish through not directly to Danny, the profound value of existential, religious and metaphysical meanings of which near the experience are inevitable bearers. The lack of a critical dialogue between the disciplines that have dealt with the phenomenon and the has seen the birth of a rather multifaceted panorama of theories and models in different fields, which together can offer us an overall view of the phenomenon. While there has been a lack of authors who have been able to validly integrate relative contributions from perspective traditionally considered incompatible, more often prejudice has fueled processes of knowledge fragmentation, offering only partial perspective and losing sight of the complexity of the phenomenon. From a certain point of view, this situation is the transposition in a specific field of the secular conflict between faith and science, which in the case of NDE takes on the connotation of a substantial incompatibility between metaphysical and materialistic perspectives. In a clinical practice, this theoretical array then translates into a reluctant attitude of the survivor to tell their experience for fear of being considered insane. At the end of the days, the greatness of knowledge accumulated over centuries of theorizing and research will inevitably have to confront with the meaning of the human condition and measure itself against what that knowledge has meant for man as a whole. This consideration of Nera Luce, Black Light, is important because the search for the meaning of life and the meaning of death is part of the very nature of a man. Whatever approach one chooses to use, the prioristic then that something can really have meaning, or to tie its value to partial and reductionist aspects place innumerable limits on the vision, as well as representing a disqualification motivated by prejudice alone of all the depth of lived and experience of which man is potentially capable. And then I close this. I thought that it was would be the lecture would be less long, and then now at this moment, so I decided to stop the reading and create another the second English part, about this lecture, but I want to close with with a quote, okay, by Nera Luce, by me, yes. And then, if you want to listen, you have to listen the second part. To recover a dimension of awareness that does not deny the consciousness, to recover a dimension of awareness that does not deny to the consciousness the depth of reflection and vision on the founding axis of our existence, to recover an idea of ourself that overlooks the metaphysical dimension of the primordial, to use poison as a drug, to engage actively and with absolute seriousness, with knowledge in all its expressions, without prejudice, in the search for the case. And here is Nera Luce, live from Maison Rouge, and today is January 21 of the current year, and this is the first part of the lecture. I think there's only one, but at the end that will become in two parts, and we will go to the second part.